or so, we're making changes to EIEP 5A. Now 5A is the notification from distributors to retailers of planned outages. We made a change about a year or so ago to a couple of the fields to expand the fields up. And since then, we've published version 11.2 and we had a 12-month transition period. That 12 months ends on the 1st of April. And on the 1st of April, EIEP 5A, including all the business rules, will become mandatory for distributors advising retailers of planned outages. The link is on the screen. We're going to publish this slide pack, Ginny? Yeah, we'll publish the slide pack. So those links will be in the slide pack, but you should already be reasonably familiar with where they are on our website. 11.2 will become mandatory. 11.1, we will remove that off our website. At the moment, both are up there. The differences between 11.2 and 11.1, there is no difference. The file format itself is the same. I'll talk about the changes that need to be made by distributors in a minute, but the file format itself is the same. It should be the one that you've been using up to now anyway. The main change we're making as part of this implementation is to mandate the delivery mechanism. So the file, most distributors were using EIEP 5A anyway, so there should be very little change to that. What will change is the delivery mechanism you use to send it to retailers. Many distributors already use the EIEP hub in the registry, but some haven't been. They've been emailing or using file Dropbox type arrangement, but you will have to use the registry from the 1st of April. Okay, for full details of how the registry will handle the files, the registry functional spec, again, the link will be in the slide pack, but it's on the registry front page. If you look up the registry in the web browser, on the front page, on the top right-hand side, is a bunch of links. One of them is the functional specification. So page 358 is all the new information about planned outages. And there's some other stuff in there as well, which is related to the EIEP 5A implementation. Okay, the big change is for distributors. So for distributors, from the 1st of April, if you haven't done it already, you must make two changes. The first change is that you will only produce one file with all the ICPs in it, instead of individual files for each retailer. So you produce one file and then you change the recipient of that file to RGST, so the registry. Then it doesn't matter how you send it to the registry. There's one of two ways to do so. The registry will then be the recipient. It'll pick that file up and it will do two things with it. The registry will enter the planned outage information against that ICP, so it will display against the ICP, and it will send files to each of the retailers that have ownership of the ICPs in the outage. So the registry does that for you. There's some other things you may want to do. So the main choice you have is the way you send it to the registry. So many of you will already be sending batch files to the registry for your normal distributor updates. So you can use that process, and if you do, you need to use the registry batch file header in the file itself, or you can continue to use the EIEP hub and put that in your EIEP out folder, and the registry will pick it up from there. Okay, so for those distributors who aren't already using the new file format, there are some additional changes you'll have to make. You'll have to ensure you're using the current EIEP. So 11.2 is the version number you need to be using. And if you're currently using email or another method, you'll have to set up the process to send it to the registry. A couple of other small changes that affect distributors. If you are going to cancel an outage, so this is a total cancellation, you may or may not, up to you, include the ICPs in the cancellation file. The registry will ignore those ICPs and will cancel the outage against all of the ICPs that were in the original outage notification. So if your system already produces cancellation files with ICPs in them, no need to change that. The registry will just ignore that. The other change is the PLRs. So that's a revision file. So if there's changes to any of the interruptions in the original notification, then you send a PLR, a revision file. Okay. Two questions we've received by email, both from distributors. So the first question is, what are the changes between 11.1 and 11.2 for the file format? And the answer is there are no changes, except, because there's always a but. In the header file, under 11.1, you put the recipient, the retailer recipient. Under 11.2, you have to put RGST. So that's both in the header file and in the header record and in the file name. You need to use RGST. The only other changes between 11.1 and 11.2 are in the business requirements section of the EIEP, and they're all the changes to enable the automation through the registry and the mandation through the registry. So that was the first question we had, so I hope that answered that question, and for anybody else who was thinking about that. The second question we've had is around cancellations. So there is space for the distributor to put the cancellation reason when they do a cancellation file, a PLC, but that currently is not sent on to the retailers. So although you can enter a reason, there's no way to get that to the retailers. So that's something that we will stick in the list of potential future changes to the EIEPs as a way to get a cancellation reason through. So I hope that answers that question, and anybody else, for that distributor and for anybody else who was wondering about cancellation reasons. Okay, so that's my run through of what's needed for distributors. Do we have any questions from anybody online? You can either flick your mic on and ask the question verbally, or you can send it through in the chat, and Jenny will pass that on and read it out. Cool. Okay, no hands up. Okay, no hands up, so you've got that under control. I hope we're pretty close to the go live date, so I'd hope all the distributors have had a reasonable attempt at getting this up and running. You should have been testing, and it's been live for a while in the registry, so hopefully you've done all that and tested everything. Okay, for retailers, right, we might have some retailers on the line. I hope we do. Oh, do we have? Can you read that out? I can't see the question on my screen.
Yeah, so the question we've got is, are you planning to make the same RGST change for the unplanned file?
No. So EIEP 5B, which is for unplanned outages, we're making no changes to that. So that's not mandatory. It's currently not mandatory. Some distributors use that voluntarily between the distributor and the retailers. Others don't. Others have other ways of advising retailers. So there's currently no plans to look at EIEP 5A. So if you did put RGST in an EIEP 5A file, the registry would reject it. It would be an error because it wouldn't know how to deal with it because it's the wrong file format. Hope that answered that question. Cool. Okay, for retailers. Thanks. Okay, for retailers, the first point to make for you guys is you don't actually have to make any changes. So you will continue to receive EIEP 5A files in your EIEP inbox. The registry will actually do the work of splitting the file up from the distributor. But from your perspective, you don't have to make any changes. Things will still tick along as they always have. Okay, there are some things you can select. There's a couple of options you have. One of them is whether or not you have the description field in the file you receive, or whether you don't. That's an option. But the main options for you guys is you can now select whether or not you want to receive all of the ICPs that are involved in the outage, or just the ones where you are the retailer. So if you receive all of them, then you can load that up into your systems, assuming you have all the ICPs in your systems for potential consumers, and you can load that up. Otherwise, you'll probably only want to receive the ones where you are the retailer. So where that happens, where you are the retailer, one of the big improvements we're making is around the switching process. So when you switch in a new customer that is part of a outage that has already been notified, you'll now receive a notification of an outage at that ICP, so that you can advise your new customer, even though they probably knew from the old retailer anyway. That's a service that you can offer your new customer, and you can load that into your system in case your new customer calls you when the power goes off. So that's quite a big improvement. One of the other changes we're making, which is optional for retailers, is we are creating a new web service where you can query the registry in real time and it will give you outage information. So for those that are using the existing web service, for those of you that are using the existing web service to get ICP information, there's no change to that. This is an additional web service that you can use just for outage information. Okay, so we have a question?
Yep, so EIEP 5 files from RGST to the retailer, will it have the distributor participant code or RGST?
Oh, what a good question that is, and I don't know the answer. I'll have to have a look. I'll have to have a look in the functional spec, and we'll post that answer on the chat after the meeting's closed. Unless there's somebody, one of the registry engineers is online that might know the answer to that off the top of their heads. No. Okay. Sorry about that. You came up with a good question and I couldn't answer it for you. Okay, so for retailers, separate web services. So you can integrate outage information. You can integrate that into your systems using a web service. One other thing that we're changing, which should help retailers, or anybody actually who accesses the registry from the web browser interface, outage information will appear on the summary screen. So if you look up an ICP on the registry web browser, outage information will be part of the information that's against that ICP, and the history of that will be there as well. So that should help you if you're trying to investigate complaints. Okay, apart from the one question which I couldn't answer, do we have any others from retailers or anybody else about this particular slide? Okay, we'll move on to the last slide. And this is something completely new. This is for MEPs. So one of the big new benefits of using the registry to do this sort of work for us is it allows us through the registry to send notifications to MEPs. So MEPs can choose to get outage notification. The default is no file, so you won't get it unless you log into the registry as the supervisor and select this as an option. But MEPs can now choose to get planned outage information. If you do choose to do so, you'll receive outage information only for the ICPs where you are the MEP on the registry. So that should help MEPs if you want to use that information if you're investigating communication failures or meter issues at site and you want to know if there was outages, planned outages from the distributor. Okay, so for MEPs, that's pretty much it. You either get it or you don't, and the default is not. I think I saw that. Do they require acknowledgement files sent back once you receive it? And the answer is no. Okay, we have another question. Can you read that out? That flashed on and off my screen.
Yep. If part one of a multi-stage outage has commenced and then an issue is found before part two, how does EDP notify the retailers that part two is cancelled? Sending the PLC file will advise them that all parts of the outage are cancelled. Is there any way of advising them that only certain parts are cancelled?
Yeah, you'd send a PLR that removes the second stage or the second outage, the second interruption of that notification. So that would be the way to do that. So you'd have to send a PLR for all ICPs that are in the outage and just show the stage one interruption on it. That was a good question. Okay, if there's no further questions, we'll close and give you a bit of extra time to yourself, a bit of extra lunch. We're always open for questions by email or by phone. You should all know my contact details.
Yep, we've got another question. Yep. As a distributor currently using email method, how do we or should we let retailers know as a courtesy when we are switching to sending files to the hub?
Oh, okay. So if you're currently using email, then you probably should be talking to the retailers directly. You should know who the contacts are. In the registry, there is contact information for all the retailers. The people that you can talk to there, if you don't know who that is. On the 1st of April, though, it will be mandatory anyway. So the retailers will be expecting them from the 1st of April through their EIEP hub.
We've got another one, and my apologies if I get this incorrect. Plint files or PLINT files returned to retailers and MEPs will show as coming from RGST, not the distributor. Files to retailers do not require any confirmation from them. Thanks,
Greg. That's from the registry engineer. So that answers that question that I couldn't answer before. So the EIEP files from the registry to the distributor will show RGST as the sender, not the original distributor. The distributor's name will be in the header row in the file itself. That it? Any other questions? No. My contact information anyway, grant.benvenuti@ea.govtnz. Probably better though if you send stuff through to compliance@ea or my general email, which is reg.ops@ea.govt.nz. And that way, if I'm not here, somebody else can pick it up.
Yeah, so I've just got a comment around those print files. So the comment is, no, you could receive multiple files.
So who's that from?
Greg Hay.
Okay, not sure what question that was answering. Okay, we don't have the question back up, so that must have answered whoever wanted to know that. Okay, hopefully once this gets underway, 1st of April, hopefully it'll go reasonably smoothly. Certainly will from our perspective, or from the registry's perspective, it's well prepared and been well tested. Hopefully you enjoy the extra functionality, especially the retailers. This really is designed to make things a bit easier for you, especially with switching customers. You'll now have live up-to-date information about outages for those customers. So yeah, thank you for all those, even though it was several years ago now, who was involved in the original project. This is a good outcome. We're finally there. So if there's no further questions, I think we can sign off. Thanks all for attending today. We'll see you later.